All right, so let's go right into the crew cards. And there's a lot of questions that people have that I don't go into in the introductory, just because it's they're more advanced questions and they're more complex, and a lot of the time they deal with union. So let me go ahead and let's switch this up now. I will go ahead and I'm going to change this overtime schedule. It's actually set to California. I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to a particular union. And again, one of those things that we have in the program that's very nice, it's all over the program, is these find and get buttons. Look for them at the very, very top of the menu. So if I click on find, it allows me to find any criteria that I want to. I can scroll for it, or I can literally type in what I want. Say I wanted 600, or I could say camera and hit get. See, now this brings up all the union contracts. Now again, how do you get to that? In the worksheet itself, in the union section, of course you're going to go into the union section first, go into that section, it's under OT schedules. So again, let's go back and number one, find, we'll type in 600 and get. You can type anything you want and you can type as little or as much as you want. The more you type, the more it'll narrow it down. It's called a wildcard find. What happens is when you go in, you type less, it'll actually find more information for you. So if you're just typing in, for example, 600, I got all the 600 that's in the program. Now, a couple of things that are really nice to note about this. You can alter these, or you can make your own custom overtime schedule. A lot of people don't realize that you can make your own. We don't put in side letter agreements. We don't put in one-off agreements. And there's a really good reason why. The guilds don't want everybody to know what deal they met with one particular company, because one-off agreements and side letter agreements generally are an agreement between a guild and the actual studio or production company. So those aren't put in there because they're not published in any of the particular labor guides that are available in the industry, including our own, by the way, which is on our website and is free to everybody. Now, we don't put those in there because, again, they're private. The industry, the guild that made the agreement doesn't want everybody to know. Can you add it in the program? Of course you can. And it's very simple. You can do it there's actually several ways you can do it. So first of all, say maybe, for example, you find one that you like that's very similar to the one you want, but you want to make it for another guild. So if you click into one, say, for example, I wanted to use this one here, I can come in here and I can actually say, duplicate the OT schedule. And now I can call it whatever I want. I can call it Rogers 600. Of course, you could call it a particular agreement. It may be a local agreement for some other state that you're in that maybe might be, again, a one-off agreement or something like that. So, for example, I want to change this. I do not want elapsed hours. I want worked hours instead. And you know what? They're not getting triple time. They're getting double time. And same thing here. They're going to get the entire day is double time here. So I'll change that there. I do not need the alternate because we're not doing, again, alternates for, say, for example, you're doing a bus 2 and you want to change it to another type. You can use that. Now that I've made that, I can do something that's kind of unique. I can go into this copy to favorites. What this does is it copies it over to the favorites. Now, you could have made it in the favorites as well. It's your choice. But now this moves this over. I can move all the overtime schedules of my choice into favorites. So how do you get to that? It's right next to OT schedules. So there's my favorites right there. Okay? What this does is it allows me to then pull over from the overtime schedules. Now, if you see, we actually have in the main overtime schedule screen, there's a lot of overtime schedules, right? Maybe you don't want to have to scroll for these and find these. And ironically, there really is only about 8 to 10 variations to most of the guilds. They mostly follow an 8-4 or an 8-6 type of schedule, whether it's elapsed or worked. There is changes, of course, in the 6th and 7th day. That's okay. Those can be changed to whatever to suit your needs. But what you can do is you can actually say, you know what, I want this particular one. It's moved over, and you can move over them one at a time to suit your needs. In other words, this makes it easier to find if you're using the same overtime schedules over and over again. So again, just use that button. It's again, go to the overtime schedules, use your find and get to find whatever you're looking for in particular. So for example, again, I wanted to find, instead of saying 600, I'll say camera this time, just so you can see how that works. Type in camera and hit get, and I'll see Hive camera just like I did before. Again, the more I type in, the more I'm going to find. So if I wanted to narrow this down to, you know, maybe off production, on production, I could do that too. Or I wanted a New York City one, I could grab that. But yeah, once you're happy and you like the one you want, say, I want to move this one over here, and it's now in my favorites. So favorites can be a very, very handy tool. Another thing about favorites that's really nice is when we give you an update to the latest version, remember, one of the nice things about if you have version 13 right now, go ahead and, for example, maybe we have a new update. We'll have a new update coming out soon, by the way. But we're currently, I'm demonstrating 13G. If you don't have it, you're welcome to upgrade to it. Or you may want to wait until we come up with our latest version, which is actually, I think it's J. That'll be coming out probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And we fix things. You know, we fix bugs. We add functions that you're looking for. Here's the cool thing, though. When we move you over, we don't always move over the overtime schedules. So the main overtime schedules are already there. We add more overtime schedules as we go along. But say you have your favorites and you want to hold on to those favorites. Tell myself or my team that you want to retain these. It's very quick and it's very simple. All you need to do, in fact, I'll show you how to do it, is basically you export the schedules, click OK, you make a backup. Now make sure to save it as FileMaker, of course. That's the nice thing about it. And then you can just say this is Roger's schedules, OT schedules, right? And then save it to your desktop. And then what you can do then is import the schedules. Ask my team if we're upgrading you. We'll go ahead and do that for you, just so you know. All right? So it's a very handy way of retaining those. In fact, I have some accountants that actually like only using their favorites. They make their favorites and they have a favorite for one studio and they'll have a favorites for another studio, maybe one agreement compared to another agreement. And then they like to import and export those and they save them as a template to be able to use in that particular show, maybe when they're moving from one studio to the next. So it's a very handy little function. Use this to your advantage because we made this for you. It makes a lot of sense. Makes it a lot easier to deal with your overtime schedules. All right. So there is, and of course I didn't apply it, so I can go right back into my favorites and let me go to Roger 600. And now I've applied that particular overtime schedule. And again, it's a custom one that I made. So if you ever need to do that, and maybe it's a more advanced one, let us know. And myself and my team can help you make your overtime schedules. You can also do another thing, too, that a lot of people don't realize. You can actually, say you're using just mainly one type of schedule. You can copy that schedule and paste it into another card. Use that functionality at the very bottom, too, because that can be very helpful as well. All right. So, of course, we reviewed a lot of the other stuff with Showbiz Timecards, but whenever you make a change, you're going to want to go ahead and whenever you make a change on something, of course, I missed something. See, I made a mistake there. See, it was supposed to be E. So here, let me go back and fix that really quickly. And should be W. There we go. Now that I've changed it. You can change it at the time card level here, and it will duplicate every week. But remember, if you want to do like I did, I made a simple error, and I wanted to go fix it, go back in to the overtime schedule, change it, and now that I've applied it, it will now be used forevermore. All right, so now that I've got that in there, I hit Magic Pay, and I update the totals to whatever I do. Now, one of the things that we don't talk about that much in the introductory is about things like splitting the week, splitting the day. So let me go into that. I'll go over that a little bit, and then I'll take some questions. So first of all, one of the things you'll find that's new about the program, and we've had it ever since version 12, actually, but it's new. It's called the splitter. So a lot of people go, what is that? It's different than we used to do. In the past, we used to suggest you put in a dash or a star or something like that in the episode. Well, the problem with that is that didn't always make sense to do because you had to put a dash and a star and you had to go to the notes and say, what does the dash or the star mean? Sometimes, unfortunately, some payroll people at some payroll companies would put the dash and the star in there when they were typing your edits for you. And people were going, that didn't make sense. Why are you doing that? So this is the difference. What we're doing now is we have something called the splitter. What the splitter does that's different is actually you can put in the reason why you're splitting. In this case, I'm actually saying it's an episode, EPI-101. You can type in, re-rate. You can type in whatever you want. All you need to do is just make sure you fill out what's different. There's a different, it's usually a different COA, but it might be a different rate. So make sure you change whatever is important. So if you click on, I'm just literally clicking down here and copying down. It automatically copied down before, but I copied down the rate. But maybe the rate is wrong. So you know what? Shoot, that's not right. This actually should be $35.25. So if I copy that down, now it's actually copying down that. Any changes you make, say for example, my account code was wrong. I can go ahead and change that, 1104. See how when I'm copying it down, it automatically copies and changes. It does not change the episode, but it will change any of your account coding down, and as well as the hourly rate and or daily rate if somebody's a daily. All right. So now we've got those episodes in there. Now this is where the program becomes really, really cool. Splitting has become a commonality in television shows and or features. Remember, with features, you might be splitting by location, not by episode. And you can change that. You can just say instead of EP 101 or EPI 101, as I've been putting here, you could put LOC 1, LOC 2, or you could even be very specific, Las Vegas, New York, Chicago, wherever you're shooting, because most likely your budgets are going to be separated. And of course, the reason why you're doing the separating by episode is because you originally budgeted. Somebody budgeted your episodes per episode, and now you want to actualize your payroll by episode as well. So that's why you need to do this, and that's why it's become so important, because some departments maybe work on multiple episodes a week or even within the same day. So let me show you how that works. So you set it up like the way you want it. Again, that splitter, you can put anything you want. You could put A, B, C, D, E. You could put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By the way, if you click on F and G jobs over here, you can even do 2 more days if you needed to. Very handy if you have construction. Construction often has up to 7 days worth of splits. Or they may have 7 different splits. So use that to your advantage if you want to. Go back to worksheet up here. So now I just want to do 5 days worth of splits. So it's really simple. I like the drag and drop method, which I'm literally clicking and holding down on the left mouse button and dropping it. Can I type it in? Absolutely. You can do that as well. I'm just doing the drag and drop method because I think it's a lot easier to do. I've already filled the information out correctly, and I'm dragging and dropping down. All right, so now I've got every day split separately. Now, of course, this person's worked the same hours, so let me change things up a little bit so it's a little bit different here, 21.2, and we'll have lunch, it's 14.1, oops, again, 14.1, and we'll do 15.1, and we'll say it's 8.3, and we'll do 7 o'clock here. So, all right, so now this is where it gets more complicated. They have different in and out times now. That's a lot harder to do when you're trying to split. You know, when I have a standard episode, it's simple, right? I can figure that out. That's not too difficult. However, now I have things, and I have meal penalties as well I need to deal with. I'll go ahead and I'll just pay the meal penalties. I'll say it's IATSE Studio, and I'll pay the meal penalties. See, now I've got some crazy splitting that's going on here. So is it hard for the program? Absolutely not. It's actually very easy for the program to do. You tell the parameters of what you want to do, how you want to split it, and now all I need to do is hit Magic Pay. And watch this. I now have 5 days worth of splits with different episodes. Where I can have different coding if I want to. So if you have different episode coding and or detailed subset or free accounts, you can have that separate as well. It'll all carry forward, even different rates. And I'll show you. Let's say, for example, this person on episode 105 is now going to a $40.25 rate because they got uprated. That's fine. Change the rate there. Now I hit Magic Pay, and now you'll see when I scroll down to episode 105, episode 105 now has the new rate. Okay? That's the beauty of splitting with Showbiz Timecards. People love this feature. Why? Because it makes your job so much easier when you're having to try to split this. I remember when I was doing payroll years ago, and you had to do multiple episodes, it was like you cringed because, if it was the same every day, it was easy. But when now that you have different rates and meal penalties on one day and, maybe different allowances or other things, all these allowances will carry forward, by the way, depending on what days you want to pay or not pay them. Different meal penalties, different overtime. It always will carry through depending on which you do. All right, so now that's splitting within the day. Now, sometimes people, there's some advanced splitting techniques that people don't realize you could also use. Sometimes people say, I want to split out a vacation day, or I want to split out some kind of a day completely different than the rest of the episodes. And you can do that. Let's just go ahead and say, I'm not going to use my episode 105 anymore, but I want to say this is a vacation day because I want the vacation to be separated. In fact, I'll even go ahead and remove these other ones just so you can see what's going to happen here. All right, so I want to say literally that this is a vacation day. And you can just say VAC, just make sure you carry your episode down. Maybe it's a different episode. Maybe it's, an M word or something like that. It's your choice. I'll change this up just a little bit so you can see what it looks like. All right, so I've made a few changes there. The rates can be the same. It's fine. It's your choice again. Maybe they're getting a different rate for the holiday or vacation or holiday. That's fine. So now all I do is click on this, and I want to separate, say Monday. Monday was a holiday. Okay, so Monday was a holiday. I want to separate the costs and hit Magic Pay. Now, see how I've separated the costs? Normally, if you didn't have that in there, what would happen is it would be lumped in together. So if you ever want to separate a day, type in whatever you want, vacation, holiday, whatever. Dark day, any type of day that you want to separate the costs out, that is just the same as going in and splitting by episode. There's no difference. In fact, again, you can use this for re-rating and other things like that. So that's a nice thing. If you ever need to separate something out, separate it that way. All right. In split day is a little bit more complicated. In fact, I'm going to take that vacation out. But it's really effective, and it makes it a lot easier. It's more complicated in the fact that you have to do more complicated things. But for Showbiz, it's not so bad. It's pretty easy, actually. So let me show you the 3 ways of dealing with splitting. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to make sure to tell the program what's the default episode. It will automatically do if you don't tell it, but I want to make sure I'm clear that episode 101, I'm just dragging and dropping again, and I want to do episode 102 in my second. Now, 3 ways to split. You can split by time, percent, or you can manually split. So first is by time. So if I go by time, say, for example, I wanted to say everything after lunch, everything after 1500 on Monday, on the 6th, I can come in here and I say, I want to do everything after 1500, split by time, and now it automatically, see how it debited from the one above it, and then everything after that's lunch. So say, for example, maybe you had an insurance day. You couldn't flag insurance here, and it would do that. So if you had to take insurance for the rest of the day, you put that in there, and now it actually was split off. Actually, I didn't do 50%, did I? There we go, 0.50, and then again. There we go, that's better. Oh, sorry, I didn't do the next one here. So that was correct, 15 by time. There we go, that's correct. All right, so next is the percent. That was the one I was going to do here next. So go to percent, and you have to tell it, of course, it's going to warn you, put in 50%, then by percent, and there you go. See how it's split 50-50? But maybe you didn't want that. You wanted 75-25. You can do that as well. Your choice. The other method that people don't realize is actually by manually. So if I click away from this, here I'm going to wipe these out because I don't want this split. Or you can hit clear too, by the way, that'll work. See how I have 8 and 4? Say, for example, I just wanted the overtime, the 4 hours of overtime, of time and a half, to go to another episode. I can do that. Maybe a producer tells you, you know what, I want to split 2 hours off to this other episode, and it can do that too. Type in what you want. See how notice how it's debited from above it? That's the third way. You could even split meal penalties as well. See, this one has a meal penalty here. What you literally have to do is just look at, here's a better one down here. See how there's 2 meal penalties? Say, for example, you wanted a 50-50 split. Add these 2 together, and then just tell the program to split it. Because We don't know if you want a 50-50 split or do you want them, you know, AM and then the other one in PM. So just choose what you want and put the numbers in here, put the math of what you actually want to do, and then it will do it for you. Okay? Or you could just say maybe it's going to go to all one episode. That's fine too. Just add the numbers the way you want them, and it will do it for you. Okay? So that's how essentially you split within the day. Again, you can do things like insurance. Again, I could have changed this to make sure that I changed this to insurance here. This could have been insurance day instead, right? We'll just change that to INS. Okay? And we'll change this here to clear out the grid here. But I can say it's insurance, drag that there, and I'll just basically say insurance after a particular time. Like I said before, we talked about that 1500 being after lunch. Again, it might need to be a little bit different, but I'll show you something here. So if I say split by time, now it's split. Now I can split by, there's different ways. It says split by time, split by percent. These are actually options that you can actually split the set. In other words, the group of people by these particular things. But be careful with that one because, and you can even copy and paste them as well, because remember, not everybody works the same hours, so you have to scroll up and down. See, I'm looking at various time cards. I'm looking at my found set. So I can go in there and do that with my found set. Scroll up and down to, to find the time cards you want to split. Okay? So, because it's always going to be looking at, see if you go back here, I'll show you. This found set is this many time cards, 9 time cards, right? So when I'm going into that particular person, I can scroll up. In this case, I want to go back to that Monday. Sorry, not back to Monday. I'm going to go back to split day. And I'm at the very bottom here. So again, just make sure that when you're splitting that you go and you choose, the time cards you want to split. I'm looking at the very bottom. I might want to start at the very top. But now that I've separated that out, see how that separated out the same way with the insurance code? Now, when I go back into that person's time card, all I need to do now is make sure that, here, I'm going to wipe that out because I actually did have a separate one. I did use a split. See how it's giving you a notation that it's splitting? It's your little notation to know because sometimes it might be lumped in, or in this case, it was a separate day and it separated it out. But it's giving you a notation that there is a split that's in another screen to take a look at. Also, the people that print it, when you print the time cards, it'll actually give you a notification that it's splitting as well, so that they can look for that as well. And again, there's no harm to be able to put a little note in there to tell them that you split this episode and to take a look for that information. All right? So that's splitting. Splitting is a really, really handy tool that will actually help you, especially when you're doing other things like daily hot costing and or daily reporting. So let me see if you have any questions first of all. All right, so first of all, can the splitter feature be used for non-union payroll? Absolutely. Just because I gave you a demonstration on union doesn't mean it can't be used on non-union. All you need to do is, I'll click away here. You can use the non-union section. The only difference will be is that you have 4 splits for non-union. Okay? If you do need to use more than 4 splits for non-union, do them in the union section and you'll be fine, or the wide section. By the way, sometimes people ask about this wide section. I do go that in the introductory, but essentially all it really is, it's the union, but it has wider episodes. It's mainly made for animation studios that have very wide episode or production numbers. So you can use it. It's no harm if you're actually using very large episode codes. Go ahead and use that section for that. But yes, no, non-union is fine. You can do that same thing. There's the split day. The only difference is there is a limitation of 4 because most people for non-union don't need that many. But again, if you do need more than 4, then just go ahead and use the non-union people in the union section and you'll be fine. Okay, can you split a travel day? Absolutely. The same way I just did with insurance, make sure you set as travel and split out the cost for a travel day. Just make sure you change your episode, account coding, the hourly rate if applicable. Again, you can split on flats too. It works exactly the same way. It's going to, on a standard daily person, it will split out their daily rate if it's different. On a weekly person, it'll prorate the rate and split it out as well. So it splits the same. It's the same functionality. There's no difference there. All right. So let's see, what else do we have here? Do you have to show all this work on the physical time card? No. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's up to you. I mean, a lot of this actually is not going to show up, so you know. All this calculation and stuff like that, once it's done and you hit Magic Pay on that time card, when you go to the time card, it's just going to show the split out. Again, you can choose the different time cards you want. In fact, all this splitting we're talking about, use the new splitter time cards that are towards the bottom, and you can actually see that actually the splitter information is carrying forward. Just so you know, I review this kind of in the introductory, but the ones on the top are original ones. We haven't removed them because people like them. But they are generally more for non-union. They're not a lot of splitting functions, although they will show up. But the splitter ones will actually show the reason why you're splitting, and that's the new function that I've been showing today, is you really want to use that. So use the splitter time cards. And by the way, help us to make these time cards better. In fact, there's now a splitter, and this is a newer version here. There's a new splitter by day. You can see there's more splitters. Essentially what we've been doing is people say, you know what, I like number 4. Can you add the splitter to that? And we do things like that. So if you have a particular favorite time card that you really like and you've been using for a long time, please email us, and I can go ahead and I'll work with our developer on getting a one of those original ones moved down here to a new number. But it'll essentially be the same thing with that splitter function in it. So yes, but again, no, you don't have to show all the physical work. In fact, we're not showing much of it. We're just showing the results in the actual paper time card. Also, if you're using media services and we're importing or uploading it directly into our payroll system, this is only going to show. Only this information is going to do it. Essentially, remember, Showbiz Timecards is a worksheet. That's what we call it, worksheet and worksheet list. Essentially what's happening here is you're calculating your information, you're getting it right the way you want it, and then when you go to the actual time card, good to go. Okay, so there's another question. When splitting, can you put a key grip on one day and a best big grip another one? Absolutely. They probably have a different rate as well. That's where you're going to go ahead and put in the splitter, because maybe they're moving from one job to another one. Now, if they're moving to a completely different department, though, most payroll companies will want you to do a completely separate time card. But if they are on this, if they're in the same, the same department, not a problem. You would go ahead and use that splitter and just use the splitter to say, one day they're one position and another day they're in another position. Okay, so that's how you do that. Just literally do that description, and you might have a different rate. If you don't, leave the rate the same. But you do the same functionality, no different. Okay. Let's see, a couple of thank yous. Well, you're welcome. Yes, this is being recorded again. You'll be able to watch it later. In fact, there's one right now that's up there if you want to watch a previous one. And I think that's everybody so far. Yep, all right, good. So again, feel free to keep typing those questions and I'll answer them along the way. So if I've missed anything, please let me know and I'll go back and review it again. All right. So that kind of concludes about the splitting. Now, another thing that you need to know that's good about the splitting is make sure you set up your splitting for the next thing, which is going in and doing daily entry. Now, this is actually, a lot of people call it hot costing. Not necessarily, because there's multiple levels of the daily entry that lead into hot costing. What happens here is, if I go in on the very top, I can literally go into a particular day. So I click right in here. Now I'm going to go in and I'm actually looking at, think of this, it's a slice. It's a particular slice, a particular time card. So if I want to look here to this particular person right here, this is this person's time card that's being entered daily. Now most of the time you'll have a blank time card. So here, I'll show you. Let's do this. Let's just wipe this time card out. What happens here, this is basically blank. So if I go back in on Monday on this particular person, it's blank here because I blanked it out, right? If I type it, so in other words, consequently, if I type it in here, it's going to go to the time card. So watch. We'll just go ahead. We'll type a slightly different day here. We'll do 7, 13, 14, 21. Okay. Now we've got it in there. Now there's a couple things you'll notice what the program is doing. Not only have I entered it here, but I've entered it back in the time card. So what's handy about knowing this function right here is, say you're getting a production report and you want to enter the production report here. Now, you're not going to pay off a production report. You're going to pay off of a paper time card. However, if your ADs are really good, and a lot of them are great, and they enter the accurate times, then you have a good basis till you get the actual time card on, oftentimes it comes in on Monday, but you might get lucky. You might get the fax in on Sundays, and you come in on Sundays. Well, in fact, one of the nice things you'll find about this is a lot of people aren't having to work the weekends anymore because they're doing it daily. The advantage of that is if you're doing this every day, it's building up your time cards every single day. And literally what happens when you come in on Monday, you're going to go ahead and check the time card. You go to the person's time card, and you make sure it's all accurate, and then you hit Magic Pay, and you're done. But yeah, of course, you're going to look for things like meal penalties and other things like that you wouldn't obviously do daily, but you can, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So I'm just showing you basically just to go in, just enter the time cards. Some companies, some production companies, some studios are actually doing something rather unique. They are actually doing an Exhibit G type time card for a department. They call them daily departmental time cards. The payroll companies are accepting them a lot of times because, again, it's a time card that's just like the Exhibit G. So the actors are using it, right? So if you happen to be one of those companies that does that, use that instead. Use that daily departmental time card. It is really no different than Exhibit G. What happens is usually a department head fills out the time cards, or the guys or gals may come and they fill out their time card, and then they'll sign it afterwards. Now, a lot of times they'll still want a paper time card at the end of the week that's fully signed. A lot of times they'll take it, if it's signed, just like an Exhibit G is, instead of initialed, then that can be accepted too. Again, work with your company and or your payroll company on this because these things can be done. So that's a nice way of doing, just going in there and just doing daily entry off a production report or a daily timesheet, not even worrying about hot costing. The advantage of this is literally you come in on Monday, you don't have to work on Sundays anymore to grab those time cards and throw them in. All you're doing is just a couple of straggler time cards, get those in. I'm going to double check against the paper time card if I'm getting a paper time card from the individual, and of course if I'm coming in production report. And or maybe they're sending a time card over. Just check the numbers, make sure it's accurate, look for meal penalties, pay those if you haven't done it, and Magic Pay it, and you're done. I have actually had several customers who were not interested at all in the hot costs, but they just wanted daily entry because they were coming in on Monday, they're coming in early at like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're working 14 or more hours per day, just trying to get the payroll done. And also, with payroll companies, by the way, the quicker you get your payroll in, the faster you're going to get it back. So that's another nice advantage is you get the payroll in quicker, you're going to get your payroll back faster. So that's another huge advantage of going in doing this daily entry. You're done faster. In fact, this is exactly what this individual, was one particular individual I'm referring to. He literally called me. He was frustrated. He said that, I love Showbiz Timecards, and it's saving me a lot of time, but he says, I'm having to go and enter all these things on Monday. How do I make that more efficient? I showed him this function. He loved it, and he couldn't believe how much easier it made him doing this, because he thought he had to do hot costing. No, you can just do daily entry and be done with it. So that's the first step, okay? And that leads into the other steps. Now, when I go ahead and I enter the information, make sure you note a couple of things. See how this says EPI 102? This is because whatever I've typed in here, if I want to split, I can type in, I think I've got an EPI 103 if I remember. So watch this, EPI-103. That's how it knows 103 here. So just remember, one thing is key about making sure, this is fairly new, is we don't have you type in here, and there was a really good reason why for that. If you don't have it set up, it doesn't carry forward properly. So you want to set it up in the actual person's time card. Make sure you set up your jobs or your splitters, both, in this case you want to split the splitter up. Whatever you're calling it, it could be as simple as A, B, C, D, E. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be anything like we talked about, vacation, holiday, and any particular descriptions that you use. Just make sure you put that in there, and then when you go to the daily entry, type in what you want. So I'll take it back to, I'm going to take it out, so you watch. See how it says 103? If I don't put anything, it's going to use the default. The program will always use the default episode if you don't put anything in there. So be aware of that one item. So if I really wanted 102 in there, again, I could copy and paste it, but I go into the day, and I can literally say, I'm going to put it in here, and watch this. I want everybody to be 102. Click OK, say 102, and now they're all 102, and see how it changed along with it. Now, the one thing is it'll actually, set up. Now I need to go back and look. I probably didn't set those people up properly with episode 102. So that's another thing to look for, because it's doing a daily calculation. But it's doing that because it's looking to see, did I put that in there? Must have missed, see, I didn't put it properly into the split, to have the split code. So yeah, it'd probably be better to go back, at least for demonstration purposes, to do this to 101. Or just take it out. If you want to blank it out, you can do that too. I just don't want anything in there. Gone. See, now it's back to 101. Okay? So that's one thing that's really nice. Just make sure if you want to split with episodes, put it into your splitter, but make sure they're set up. Notice how the labor totals are correct. So it's usually one of two things about the labor total when you're not getting them. It's because, number one, you don't have the split properly set up, or two, you may have missed something important, like you forgot to put that they're put an hourly rate in, and put an overtime schedule. The dailies are a little more obvious because you can see something. We'll split by, usually 1/5 of their rates, unless you tell the program to do otherwise. But yeah, hourlies, a lot of times, if you're missing that, it's because you're missing something along those parameters. All right. If you scroll over a little further, there are things you can do. You can actually do the meal penalties if you want to. And true hot costing, you will want to. So this person actually here has some meal penalties. What type is it? Is it an IFC studio, or let's say location? Click on it. Now these are one at a time. Over the years, we've had people that say, you know what, would it be nice to actually have it so it applies across all of them? And yes, we've been trying to play with that. The problem we've been finding is not everybody gets the meal penalties. Only certain people do. So in many ways, it's better to look at the one person. If you see it, then click it instead of applying it across everybody. Because in this case, nobody else got it but this one person. So yeah, choose whatever is appropriate here. You also have the basic agreement. It's non-union. You have the New York ones as well, or you can clear it out as well. Another thing that's nice too is that what people don't realize is generally for hot costing reasons, you don't need the person's name too much, but we put it over here because now you're over on the one side of it, and now you're losing track of who it was over here. See how we have the name? When you're scrolling over here, you're looking at the information. You go, oh, who was that again? Here's the information here and their title as well. So it's showing up here. And by the way, the split too is over on this side as well, so you can see it better as well. And by the way, so is the account coding. This is something that's fairly new we've been adding. So take a look for here, because then you can see if your account coding is correct before you actually go and do the next step, which I'm going to show you in just a moment here. So make sure that's clear to everybody. This is just basically doing the time cards daily, calculating the meal penalties and stuff like that. Now, if I want to go to the next step, and I actually want to generate hot costs, because remember, hot costs are really just daily labor totals. Productions are now getting very, very expensive. And those productions now, it's getting kind of crazy. The episodic costs are going through the roof for a lot of shows. Well, they have a budget they want to stick to, and to help make sure that a show, usually the financial executives of any particular studio, they want to know daily what those hot costs are, so that they're not surprised at the end of the week when they're now hundreds of thousands of dollars over budget. So to keep budgets in control, what they want to do is they want to know daily how much that was budgeted, because they'll break down their budgets by day. So you can help them and help yourself, because you're responsible for it, by going and doing one additional thing. Now I've learned those other options. Now I can do one more thing, which is take that and now do the daily entry and turn it into a hot cost report. Multiple levels of this too. Notice there's this go-to. This go-to is if you've already generated one. I'll show you why in just a moment. Otherwise, I want to generate it. It's telling me the day I want to generate it for. Generate. It's going to delete your current hot cost. People go, "Ooh, what does that mean?" That's okay. We don't want the hot costs that you're generating now to be affected by other hot costing. In other words, I'm doing a new hot cost. I want to get the reporting done, get that done, and then I'm starting over the next day. But that is what the go-to is for, too, by the way. If you have to go out and back into the program, you can go to one you've already generated. I'll show you why that's important. So I'm going to go, yes, I want a new one. Click OK. It'll wipe out the previous one. By the way, I'll also show you if you want to keep one, you can do that, too. Now, it says there are splits in the time card. If you want to use it, and I'm going to say yes, because I'll tell you why here. Click on yes. What it's doing now is it's literally going through on this particular Monday, and it's breaking up the cost. There's some splits in there. Now, this is one key thing here. And I have to go back and show you this. I want to do this on purpose so you can see there's multiple levels even to the reporting, too. All right, so I click on Studio, and the MPV's Studio. Now, see how that's blank here? It's because I did not put them in a particular spot in the crew card. Let me go show you that. So if I come back in here, let's come back to the, worksheet. On the bottom of everybody's time card, we have something called for hot costing only. Literally, you can put in how much in pay hours they're supposed to be budgeted for. So I can come in here and just type in on the individual person's time card at the very bottom. I also have MPVs as well. However, we also have another way to do it that's a little bit more clever in case you've forgotten to do it and you want to do it very quickly, or you can just use it because it's convenient. Go to Reports, go to Budgeting right up top here. This is now just a view only of that little thing on the very bottom, but of the time cards that I wanted to look at. So in this case, I want to come in here and I want to say how many budgeted hours do I have? And again, we give you 3 different types. You can choose which types. In other words, say for example, and again, it's in pay hours. So if you have a 12-hour day, that's going to be 14 pay hours, right? So put that in there. Again, put in the pay hours that are most appropriate for you. If you don't want to use the other ones, don't. But say, for example, you have a 16, you can use that too. Here's cool. That's a cool thing about it. Maybe I do have MPVs for studio, and that's going to be an 850 that we budgeted at least one. Location, I can say with 750 for one as well. I can even put a fringe percentage, and I would suggest you do this. Why? Because when you're doing hot costs, the studios are expecting to see it's an estimate, but that's okay. At least you can estimate how much the cost will be with an estimated fringe included. So yeah, to non-union, you can start at like 22, 23% and go all the way up to something like DGA, which is in the 40s. So you might want to do these individually, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you at least you have something in there. I'm going to go ahead and say it's 30% across the board for these entire people. All right. So watch this. Now I can do apply all at once, or I can do them one at a time. I'm going to do one at a time. So if I click here, it's going to say, what would you like to do? I'd like to do 14. Hit replace. See how they all became 14? I can do this here and say, I want 16. Click replace. Same thing with MPVs, 850. So instead of doing one at a time, I can do it across the board. So it does make it easier. In fact, here I'll cancel. I want to do all at once. Say yes. It's going to walk you through the different things you want to do. So other, I didn't do another, that's fine. See, it's kind of filling it out for you. And then how much is my fringe percentage? There we go. So if you have the same numbers for everybody, fine. Do that functionality. Otherwise, do them one at a time. Or again, as you're filling out the time card itself, you may just want to do it at the very bottom. This is one thing you'll find. A lot of times the lead accountants or a first are responsible for hot costs in a particular show. You can still have your person who is doing the payroll actually fill out the numbers on the bottom. Just tell them what those numbers are. Just say, hey, these departments get these amount of pay hours, these for location and studio. And they'll fill it out for you. In fact, a lot of shows do that. In fact, I've known shows that actually what they'll do is they'll get the assistant to go in and they'll go to the day and they'll go generate it. Okay? I'm going to regenerate this because now I want to, but I could have gone to, see if I go to, I'm right back to the one we did. I want to go back and regenerate it because now I actually have budgeted pay hours. But can you fill these out individually? Absolutely. I could come in here 6, 16, 7, 14. See how the variances are going away? So you can do it manually as well, and you can even change the button up top. Say you wanted everybody to be a particular number. In this case, it would probably not be the best because they are different, but that's okay. Say I wanted to put in 14 pay hours. See how it's doing it across the board? That's what will happen if you fill it out in advance. So again, you don't have to fill it out in advance if you don't want to. If you just want to go in here and fill these out, that's fine. You can do that. Let me go show you that again. So I'm going to go back to, literally back to the worksheet, go back to the day, and now I'm going to generate a new one. Again, it will wipe out the previous one. That's okay. I wanted to start over again. Again, it always takes a few seconds because, again, it depends on how many time cards you have. I have split days. Yes, I want to see them. All right. So it's going through the process. Again, this could be as simple as 9 time cards as I have here or hundreds of time cards. I want to do studio. This is where, again, remember we talked about the different types, studio, studio. Now it's more accurate, see? I didn't have to fill it out here. Again, I could have, just like I showed just a moment ago. These are already pre-filled out. Now, you may want to make adjustments here, and that's fine. In this case, we got an approved overage, so we went to 16. I don't want to use the button up top, which changes down. There's also this thing called add. You can add, if you want to add, say for example, say I wanted to add maybe 1 hour or a portion to everybody. I click on that one, and it says, hey, what would you like to add? I don't want to add anything, so we won't. All right, so fair enough. There's also this prorate, and I'll show you why that's important. Prorate is for, see for example what's happening here, say my budgeted hours are 14, but my actual is 7. The reason why is because these people were split. Remember how it asked me if you wanted to split the costs between multiple episodes? So here's what you have to do on those. There's actually more than one episode here. If I click find, I can do the drop down. There's 2 episodes. I hit 101 and hit get. Now I'm looking at episode 101, and I actually want to deal with just 101 and adjust just these ones. What I want to do then is I want to go in and I want to say that my actual, my budgeted hours, remember my budget were originally 14? In this case, because I was doing a 50-50 split, I actually want to do 7 hours. So now it's accurate. See the difference? Because what's happening, because you're splitting, it's now half of the original budgeted hours. You don't want to mess with them individually. You don't want to have to go in there on that day and say, oh, I really had half here. Let the program do that for you by coming in here and doing that. And that's what that prorate will ask you. If you have a bunch of people, what's the prorate amount? It'll fix it. I'm just going to do it manually because it's very simple. There's not that many. I'll do 7 here. I'll do 7 here. And there was 8 here. Okay? So now, oops, I guess it wasn't 6. Sorry, 6, my mistake. There we go. No variance now, right? I've split just to see how the other ones, there's no variance? That's because that's fine. Those were 16 and 14 appropriately. These were half. Now, I do have to do it on one other episode, which is I have to find the other episode and get it and do the same thing. Okay? So you fix those individually. Okay? So that's the difference. Make sure you do your splitting, go ahead and put the information in there, and then when, of course, you're done, you just say find all. Now, here's another thing that's cool about hot costing as well. When you're in this actual module here, you're not affecting the original time cards. So say, for example, you needed to add somebody really quick. I need to get them in. I need the hot cost really quickly. The time cards have not come in. For some reason, the department has not given us the Exhibit G, the daily departmental timesheet and or the production report, and I need to get a couple of hot costs in really quickly. Well, say it's a couple more hair people or casting people. That's okay. Say it's another key grip. I click into this key grip here, and all I do is just use, I can go records and duplicate record. I can also use Control-D. It's just adding. Again, I'm not affecting the time cards in any way. I now have another key grip, and again, I can put them in title order if I want to, or I can separate them. And that's what this sort and unsort button's for. It's sorting by department or not sorting by department, just so you know. That's a way of actually looking at it separately. So again, I'll show you again in a second because that's for reporting. You probably want, if you ever get a situation like you were like that, you probably want to unsort it because you want to go, oh, right, I want to fix it. Just make sure that if you do make any changes in the system, hit the recalculate button, because then, see how it fixed a couple things? You made some changes, hit recalculate, and it'll recalculate the numbers. But see, now I'm going in and I've added another person. I actually have 2 key grips, and that's okay. Again, it's not affecting the actual time card entry. The person who's doing my payroll will do that later. I'm getting in a quickie hot cost because I needed to add a couple additional people because I needed to know the numbers bottom line because I need to report these to my executive. So notice how other things came through. There's a fringe percentage. There's even this thing called extra labor that you can add dollars to if you want to. If you maybe there's some things that we're not calculating, want to add a little bit to it, you can do that as well. That's something that can be added in. Now that I've done this, I can start doing reporting, and there's multiple levels to the reporting as well. But before I do that, I did mention the fact about exporting the hot costs. Could you use this program in particular for just forecasting? Absolutely. Say, for example, you want to save this hot cost, because remember, you're going to wipe it out next time you generate one. I want to save this. I want to keep it, because I want to use this as my particular forecasting to tell the producer how much it's going to cost for a particular day. Because now I've got it the way I want it, right? I want to make it all split up and fix it. I do want to fix one here perhaps, though. Fix this one here. There we go. Actually, sorry, 8. There we go. There we go. So that's good. Now I'm happy. I've got the numbers the way I want to. Now let's go ahead. I want to say export hot costs. Again, this is my forecast because I want to keep that. So if I say export hot costs, it's going to pop up and say, what you want to save it as FileMaker Pro. Okay. So I want to change this to FileMaker Pro right here. Do it from the bottom, by the way, because you will always get it right. And then I can say, you know, it's my HC for a particular day. What day are we here now? We're at the 14th, so we'll say it was for 3/14, 17, and just save it to your desktop or network drive, wherever you want to say it, okay? Keep it, boom, got it. Now, that can now be imported right here later on without having to generate the hot costs over again, making the adjustments, making the changes, making the fixes, right? You can go in there and do all those things like that. Another thing I did kind of skip over is, by the way, the meal penalties. So if you want to adjust the meal penalties, it's the exact same way. You can say the budget, say it was overage, that's okay. You can leave it that way, but you can adjust the same way by changing. Again, these changes change down, so it does it to everybody. So you may not want to use it, or you may. It's up to you. I'm going to leave it that way because it is a true overage. We weren't expecting that many people. We weren't budgeted for that many meal penalties. But you can adjust that too based on your need. Another thing too is that you can lock these things. If you are using these change down buttons, maybe you want to lock a particular person and not change them, you can lock that person and it will not change them. It will not, these numbers will not be affected. So again, even then, there's multiple levels. You can change them one, you can change them together, just to get what you essentially need. All right? So now I've done my forecast. I can import it later another time. I go directly in this module. That's what that go-to button was for. Remember when we're back in the day here, and I want to say I want to go to the hot cost. So I don't want to generate one. I want to import one, and you go right to it. In fact, when you're doing this, it's a very handy thing too. You might want to do some kind of reporting. So if you just want to send this to a report as is, you can just say send to Excel, or you can print it. 2 different options. So sending to Excel, you can send it. You can also do the same thing over here, which is file and say save send records as Excel. It'll export just like this. Now the totals won't come through because in Excel the totals don't come through automatically, but you can use the sum command and get the totals as well. It's not as efficient, but you can essentially make your own report, delete columns that you don't want, those kind of things. Okay? So that's to Excel. Well, maybe I don't want to send it to, oh, by the way, that copy headers is, you'll notice on the header, I'll do one for you just so you can see, send to Excel, and it's just automatically do desktop. And I'm going to do, oh, currently open. I guess I had open. I guess I have Excel open. But nevertheless, it'll create an Excel file. The headers will actually have it's kind of a computer description. So if you say copy headers, you can then copy the exact headers that are here right into that Excel spreadsheet. Again, anybody who's using Excel, not a lot of people do because they want to do the reports instead. I'll show you that, and I'll be happy to show you that if that doesn't make sense. So another thing you can do is you can do reporting. So I can go literally to, and it's along this top here, there's a couple different options in here. I can go to my reports. Reports allow me now to do summary reports or detailed reports. Okay? I can choose by detail, by department, by job filtered by set, or variance. Now variance is a very simple top sheet. Variance actually literally just gives you by department and the totals, okay, and your variances and stuff like that. It's a very simple top sheet. You can save it as a PDF, you can print it up, send it off, okay? And then what you can do then is use that in conjunction with the actual mixed. Just remember, mixed is our mix. See how it's all breaking down? Remember I told you earlier, you can have it sorted or unsorted. It's now sorted. So you could actually print this too if you wanted to. So again, that's unsort, looks like this. You could sort it, and now it's sorted by department. See how each department, because we still have the grand total at the bottom, you can actually print this. Say you wanted to print a detailed report. You print this. Now, by default, it's 8.5 by 14. It is legal size because there's a little bit extra space there, okay? If you want to make it smaller, it's actually, what I'm demonstrating it here, it is a little smaller. It's hard for you to see here, but it will be acceptable on an 8.5 by 11. Again, it will go landscape. It'll print up. It'll be fine if you don't have any legal paper. I usually prefer the other method, which is legal paper, because it really does break it down very handy, and it's really nice. So you can do that. Now, say, for example, you don't want something like this, but you want one of our other reports. Play with the program and see what you like. Say I want a detailed hot cost report. I come in here. Boom. Here's a report. Bottom line grand total. Now, the only tricky thing about this is if there's multiple pages, make sure you sort, there's only one in this case, but make sure that you use the multiple pages here. And when you're printing it, make sure when you print it, there's another thing, make sure it's records being browsed, not current records. Some people make a mistake. Current record is just one record. You go, whoa, it's only one on the top. It should be set to records being browsed, by the way, and then you can go to your printer and print it up. But yeah, if you don't see it, you can scan through up on here. I just don't have more than one in this case. It's only one page. But yeah, if you have multiple pages, just make sure you scan through if you want to preview it before printing it. Again, you can save it as PDF as well. Just making sure that, saving records being browsed, meaning all of these, because technically each one of these is an individual record. Okay, and print it up, and you've got a detailed report. Again, you can do it in many different ways. It'll break it down in whatever way you prefer. By the way, if you look over here, see how it's continued or cancel. Continue means print, or you can use the buttons up here. If you're done, just hit cancel. Continue will do one additional thing, though, that is handy. If I click continue, would you like to print this report? Okay. It allows you then to put a title in. See this little title that says detail? We put that in there for you. Next to that, there's a space that you can actually put in the description of what you want. So I can say it's Roger's report for whatever day you want. You choose, click OK, and now you can print it up, and that title will be in there. So you can actually have a little customized title. So that's actually, see how it's now in there now? That's because I use that little function in there, okay? So that's the one that's over there. It's now out of it, so I'll exit the preview. See, essentially, watch, I'll do it again. If I go back to reports, detail report, see how it says continue? The continue allows to put a custom in there. If there's already one in there and you don't want it in there, do the same thing, back to continue, would you like to print, and remove it, and click OK. And now it's gone. It's now gone from the section. So see how it's gone now? So that's what that continue button is for, is to be able to add your own custom description on the top there. Otherwise, just save it or print it without it if you like it that way. Okay, so now, back to reports again. We have a whole lot of different reports. Choose what you want, including that variance. But by the way, that variance is, if you want to go ahead and print that, you can just go to, no, sorry, yeah, report. Sorry, print and variance, and that's how you get that custom. So this is your top sheet. This is your top sheet. Make it cancel. And then any one of these reports is your detail report, including this mixed. Just remember, letter is smaller, so it'll fit in 8.5 by 11. It is usually legible. It's kind of deceiving here when you're looking at it because I've zoomed down, but it will fit on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Otherwise, 8.5 by 17 is the default. If you don't want it sorted at all, just make sure you say unsort, and there's your unsort, giving you totals. So again, a lot of times when people do this, they really don't need that top sheet report because it's very simple. Now, before I go in, there's one additional thing that I want to show you, because you can take all this information daily and put it into what's called the reporter. Let me actually see, because I've gone over a lot of different things very rapidly here. Let me see if you have any questions about the hot cost so far. So, okay, so what is hot cost? What does hot cost mean? It's a simple term that the industry uses for, it's the daily labor totals for your particular show. It's, whatever your particular labor totals are for the day, it's generating that so you can get your labor totals, okay? When a group of electric departments move around between second and thirds during the week, can you just key each card for each? Yes, you could. Absolutely, you could do that instead. You could do that instead, and that's exactly going in there and just keying it in. The reason why I showed you how to do that is because, again, this is separate. This is just the hot cost. I can't wait. My FE, my financial executive, is expecting my hot cost report in the next hour, and I don't have time to wait for my person who's doing payroll to get that done. I can just quickly go, and I'm just adding it very quickly. Now, mind you, they're going to go ahead and add it, so the next day when you generate it, either person's going to be in there. But remember, there's certain departments that are like daily. They're going in and out, and they're gone. They might have a grip or electric person that just comes in for the day, and you just want to get it quick right in there. So yes, that's why I showed you that. You can get it in very fast without having to wait for the payroll person to enter it. All right, let's see. What else do you have here? All right. Can you quickly over splitting meal penalties again? Sure, not a problem, because I'll go back to that in just a second, because meal penalties are a little bit different. Let's see if there's anything else here. Okay, so yes, going back to the hot cost. Now, you can do that here if you like to. But where I would really like to show, I think you're asking two different questions. Actually, one is here, which is the program actually is going through and is breaking out the total cost. If you split it in the episode, let me show you that. If I go back to the particular person's time card in their worksheet, go back to the split day. If I have to actually get a time card that has multiple, or I'll make some. Here, I'll make some. So let's do this. Say, for example, let's do, I actually do have some. Here's a good one right here. Okay, watch. So say, for example, I don't want that to be, 1950 and 850. I actually want to split it a different way. I want to allocate a different amount. All you need to do is change it. So say, for example, I wanted 850, or I wanted maybe the combination of the two. Just add them together, right? And then split it by 50%, and then type in whatever you want. And technically, you can type in whatever you want here and get the numbers you want. But that's essentially what you're doing. Is you're just saying, I wanted a 50-50 split, add the two together, and then just divide it by 2, and then you've got it correct, right? So, example, you just do whatever you want. I'm just going to put a number in here just so you know, 2020. Essentially, that's what you're doing. You're typing in. You're just adding it together the way you want it to, and then it'll carry forward. Again, you could leave it the way it was before, let it calculate, which is what, 850 and 1950. You can do that as well. It's up to you. That's the way you split it. You can even fill out what you want in here. Again, it depends. What's happening here is because it sees it as AM and PM, you may want to leave it that way. But it's because I have to do multiple episodes in that day for this to do this, of course. But yeah, so if I go in and say I wanted to do this to 101 and 102, then I can use that functionality, right? So that I can add the 2, divide it by 2. See how it's automatically going right down there? If I want it to be different, I type in whatever I want in here. Again, you can say I want whatever percentage splitting that I want, and it will do that. I could literally reverse them if I wanted to say that, yeah, I really wanted the episode 102 not to be any, so add the two together and just add them all into one. But you do it here. See how it's carrying through here? So whatever I do and type in here, see how it's carrying down here? So there you go. That's how you do. Again, it's whatever you want to do it. You have to kind of do the math a little bit yourself, but that's okay. Otherwise, let the program do the math for you. But watch again. If I do that 850 and it was 1750. There you go. See how it's doing that? It's carrying forward. Now when you hit Magic Pay, it automatically knows this is how much is going to episode 101, this is how much is going to episode 102. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense to you. That's how you split with that. And of course, when you're doing the actual daily here, it will carry forward here. So yes, you splitting within the day, you really have to go into the person's time card, but it will carry forward here. So if you have to do within the day, do the time card within the day, then carry forward through here, and it'll carry forward properly. All right? Let's see, other questions? Okay, if you use the time split percent in the hours worked, will that carry through the MPV box? No, not automatically. You have to do it like I just showed you. It does not split the percent because we don't know if you wanted to split it 50-50 or not. Use what I just showed you. That will do it. Because we don't want to assume that you want, maybe you have at the end of the day you have all your meal penalties, but maybe the producer wanted to split them between the two. You tell the program what you want to split, and just like I showed you, that's how it works. Okay? If you have any questions more about that, I'd be happy to help you individually. Just give me a call and I can help you with that. All right, so let's go back to that hot cost. Let's do one additional thing, and then I'll answer any additional questions you might have, but otherwise we'll be done. All right, so I went and generated. I'm going to go back to the hot cost because I've already kind of fixed what I want. I'm happy with it. There's one additional thing that you can do. We made it for one particular studio, but I've had several studios that like it. And that's called the reporter. In fact, in the very beginning of the program, you'll notice it says, hey, you want which type of layout. It also says hot cost, meaning this reporter function. Now, I don't have anything in here, but you know what I can do? I actually have in my flash drive, let me see, I can actually grab some. I'm going to import some episodes from my flash drive here. Let's see here. And get some demo data. Let's see here. Yeah, I got it. Might be a slightly old format. There we go, hot costs. Okay, so essentially what this is here, I'm just importing. By the way, if you are using the hot costs, we can import, export from older shows when we upgrade you. So always remind when we're upgrading you, if you're using the hot cost, always remind my team, hey, I need to make sure my hot costs are coming through as well. So we always try to check that, but yeah, always remind us too, and we'll make sure to bring that forward for you. So now what's happening here is this is literally, if I go into this, this is a representation of each episode. But remember, we're doing daily hot costs, right? This is a culmination of every one of those days into a centralized report. So what happens here is I go into, home is actually for the episode that you're looking at. List of episodes is the list of episodes you're dealing with. So just, yeah, fill out, essentially what you're going to do, and a lot of times you go on the very top, and you may want to do this, you fill out a template that does not have anything specific about it, and then you can go ahead and you can duplicate the episode from there or from here. So duplicate it down so you don't have to fill all the information out. But yeah, fill the information out because there's going to be particular things that are going to be unique about the budget, which is, maybe we're going to have the producer may be the same, the account be the same, maybe there's a different director for that episode, maybe my pattern budget's different. Fill all this information out, and that information will carry over here into this report. You can even put a logo if you like to. Okay? So, put this information in. Essentially what this is, if I go into the day first, this is actually a reporting of a particular day. Okay? Watch this. I'm going to go back to the hot costs, which is called reports. Oops, sorry, my mistake. Go back to hot costs. Here it is, right here, hot costs. Now, if I wanted to carry forward the information, I could print this up and type it into that reporter. But if I wanted to do it a more automated way, there's multiple levels to this. See how it actually has this thing up there that says copy, copy and paste? So what I can do if I wanted to is say, this is one thing I've not shown you yet, is if you actually flag your departments with IATSE, Teamster, and DGA in tag 2, which I have not done here. You can see how they're basically blank. I can actually go in here and I can use this functionality, TGA, Teamster, and stuff like that. So these are all IATSE people. So what I can safely do if I wanted to is go into this tag here and just change it here. Just say it's IATSE. And I can use a function in the program which is called control equals. I've shown some people how to do this. Always be careful when you're doing this just to look to what it's doing and what field it's replacing. But essentially what control equals does is it allows you to change one field on across all viewed time cards, which in this case is 11. Now they're all IATSE. So, fair enough. Now I have them set to IATSE. Now, better so that you actually do this in the actual time card, and I'll show you where that is. If you go back to the worksheet, there's tag 2 right here. So they didn't change it. Remember I told you? It doesn't automatically change it here in the time card. But I could flag it. Make sure, again, make sure your payroll person does this. Tag 2, if you're doing the hot cost reporter, make sure they flag it as IATSE, Teamster, or DGA. And you can use a function which I'm going to show you. And it will carry through when you're doing the hot costs. Okay? Again, you don't have to use it, but it's handy because now that we've generated it, I want to be able to say, I want to, copy these particular types. Paste IATSE. Now, do I have to do that? No. Say, for example, maybe I'm going to go ahead and change this, even though key grip would never be DGA, but I just want you to see that there are different options here. I'll put this first in the DGA, and I'll make a Teamster here. Just so you can see, you can use even things like non-union if you want to. It's up to you. But now that I do that, I've got a couple of people flagged, okay? I can do multiple levels of this reporting. So watch this. I'll use my find, and you can use the find right in here just as effectively. Find, I want to find just my tag 2 with DGA, get. Now I can actually take this and say copy total, go to that reporter, and go to the day I want to report, and go to the actual day, and go right here and say I want to paste DGA. Now my numbers came over. I go back to the hot costs. I do another find. I find my IATSE people, get those, and then copy the totals, move over to the reporter, go to my IATSE, and paste. It pastes in the totals. Now you might want to change a few things, like there's a couple of odd things you might want to change. There's a couple of buttons to check. Again, this was made for one particular studio. You can ignore them if it's not applicable. You could even change the descriptions up here. But be careful of one thing on that. I want to go back for a second. Now, you can do, instead of doing that copy totals, you can say paste DGA. It will find DGA, paste DGA. It will find IATSE, paste IATSE automatically for you. And then if you paste all the reporter, it will do that. If you get an error, it's basically because you haven't set somebody up properly. That's all. But a lot of people, I like to start with the simple copy and paste first. Could I have typed it in? Absolutely. That's originally how we have designed it. If you go in here, you can just type in the totals you want. Now remember, I told you can change any of these descriptions to whatever you want. However, if you do that, be careful because it will not work with that copy, the functionality where it says paste DGA, paste IATSE, paste MPVs, paste Teamsters. That's okay though, because then you can use the copy total instead. Find by whatever you want and paste it. In fact, occasionally what people will do is they'll put a non-union into one of these, and you can actually track your non-unions by going in here and just changing one of these that you're not using. Always make sure you change one that you have something that you can do. Maybe you're not exempt. Say I have extras and stand-ins. Maybe I don't have both. I could say maybe I'm going to change this extras to non-union, and I could do that. Okay, so non-union. And now I can use anybody that's flagged with that same functionality here. I'll go add a couple people here. Find all. Let's go ahead and just change, let's make a couple of non-unions here. Notice how in the whoops, I spelled that right, non-union. You make a mistake, just go fix the original and you'll be fine. There we go. All right. So now it's available on other time cards. So let's go flag a couple more non-union. So I could say I want to use this one here. You can use this one here too, but I just think this is more convenient. Find, tag to, non-union, and get. Now we don't have a button for those, so that's fine. Use them anyway. In fact, I usually suggest people start with that copy total, and if they get more comfortable, use these buttons here and then paste up. But all they do is find, get, and then paste. So it is convenient if you don't want to have to do those extra steps. But there's no non-union, that's okay. I want to copy the totals, go back to the reporter, and I can go right to my non-union and hit paste. Now, could I have typed all this information in? Absolutely. Whatever you feel most comfortable with, you do. There's going to be some other items in here that you can fill out other things. For example, maybe you're not going to fill out the set dress of the property because a lot of times they give you their own separate reports. You can do that. You can do things like, set construction, stuff like that. Again, if you're flagging them with these things in tag 2, you could do that. Again, if they're separate from the IATSE, for this studio it is, so they like to keep them separate. So they get extra reports from those departments, and they fill this information out. Now, down below that, there's notes. These notes are particular notes about that day. These are notes that you want not only the producers on the show, but also the executives to see. They want to be able, because everybody's going to be reviewing this. Why do we do these things? Budget this. You put your particular reasons, your notes for that. Down below that, there's even another thing. You can put other items into your hot costs. Say, for example, you want to put overages, costumes, electric rigging. Whatever you put in here will now carry forward on every other as long as you're duplicating it. But this information is now added down below here. In fact, I'll even show you. I'll go ahead and put in Roger here just so you can see what it looks like. Now, I put that in there, and all you need to do is just type in. These are extra items. They could be, not labor related, or they could be. It's your choice. So I'll just say it's $5,000. Our actual is $4,999, so I should expect a $1 variance. Perfect. Enter those in. Again, these are additional. You don't have to use it, but it's additional items that are not directly related to labor, but it might be something that is, it is related to it, and or it could be other items as well. Like example, you can change things like raw stock, telecity. Everybody's using now video now, essentially high-def video. These can be changed to whatever you want. But these are additional items, and you could put that down here as well. It's your choice. Again, this report is designed by this one studio. What they do is they take this once they're done with it, right? And then they go and print this. And they print it off as a PDF and send it to their financial executive by day, okay? But then, when you go back to your home, it actually updates the totals and adds other things into it. So whenever you go in and you add something in, it's adding in all the different things. I do have to actually put something in by Roger, I guess, for it to total, but nevertheless, if you go in here, this is a culmination of all of the different days. Now, there's one thing that people get a little confused with at the beginning, and I'll show you something. Oops, went too far down. This is actually all the notes. See all the different notes that are in here? These are the different notes that we see for that particular person. So, page up. All right. So what's happening here is you can then print this as well if you want to. Print this, and this is actually, again, this is my first day, my second day, my third day. Each of the individual hot costs that I've now carried over into this reporter, gone into the day, changed it. Again, you don't have to send this daily off if you don't want to. You can just wait until you're culminating. But again, this particular studio likes this format and does this particular format. We have changed things a little bit, allowing you to change things. But again, you don't have to use it if you don't want to. You can use the reports instead. There's various reports in here that you can get items as well. So play with those if you like to, and you can get reports instead. There's a whole lot of different reports if you want to use that functionality instead of using the actual, this reporting here. But again, what it does is, again, it's putting them all together. One thing I forgot to tell you is for example, CS is 8 days of shoot. If you do, by chance, happen to be running into something like this, and people are going, where's all the numbers? It's because you need us to put something in here. The reason why we've done this is because occasionally a producer will say, I want to see a report this days 3 to 7. and see the totals for 3 to 7. I do not want to see the first 2 days or the last day. You can change the view data for that particular type of option. Otherwise, if you want to see all, it's 8 days. In this case, there was 9 because there was a reshooting day. I can put that back in. So there we go. But yeah, literally, this is literally going in and just adding to each day and giving you abilities to do a report that's just it's a way of putting it all together into one centralized report. So again, you don't have to use it it was made in particular for one studio, but I've had other studios that have loved this because it's like, oh yeah, now I can put it all together in one report and send that off either individually as a day or as a summarized report. Okay, again, if you don't need to use that, that's fine. You can use this functionality here. Again, the nice thing about our hot costing that's built in, and it's free, it's built in the program, so to speak. It's something you guys have needed, and we just keep adding to it. And again, the level of what you want to do. Do you want to do daily entry? Great. Use the daily entry because that'll make it faster for you when you're dealing with payroll on Mondays. If you actually want to do an actual hot cost, a daily labor total, you can do just that and make reports here. But if you want to put it all into one centralized reporter, you can use that functionality as well. So there's, like I said, there's multiple levels depending on your need and what you would like to use with the program. All right, so let me see what questions you might have. How do you do a new day in the hot cost reporter to be cum totals from the previous week? Doesn't do that. You could make your own report in Excel, though. You could do that in Excel. You would probably want to go back to using the actual, here, if you went back to, let's see, back to the hot costs, you could actually make your own custom Excel report. In other words, export to Excel, make another export to Excel, and put them together into one report. The hot cost by nature of what we have in here is daily, daily, daily. If you want to, well, technically, I guess you do have a cumulative report. Technically, if you want to use that reporter, because that's what that is actually. Come to think of it, you can make your own custom ones here and then go to reports to do it. I think that's a little bit more. It's a little bit crazier, but these are cumulative totals. And again, you can show episode 1 and 2 if you wanted to show just 2 episodes for that. I think it might be easier if you do it in Excel, but it's your choice. I mean, you can call me separately if you want, and I can show you if you want to make a customized report. It's not too hard in Excel. That's probably might be the best way to do it. But again, because the reporter does allow you to put things together, you can do that. Let's see. When they add additional thirds come in for the day, their work hasn't been turned in, so the payroll person doesn't show up. What's the easiest way to build up the labor total? Oh, okay, I did show you that earlier, in fact. That's that adding that, if you want to go in and just add that one particular day, person in the day, that's easy enough to do. What you do is you just go in, and that's back here in the hot costs. You just build another person in. Again, you don't have to go in and actually build them into the actual time cards here, or sorry, in here. You could, if you wanted to, just go quickly add somebody. But again, if you're just wanting to, bam, I want to get it into the hot costs. You've already generated it. I don't want to go do that. You could just go right in directly and go in and just go to that hot cost, find somebody that you like. It doesn't necessarily have to even be the same, maybe it could be the same hours, but you can change any aspect you want about it. Say, for example, here, if I know, there's more. So say, for example, it wasn't even second hair, but you know what, the same hours are there, and here, let's just click this person here, and I can go in here and say, I want to duplicate it. Again, that's under records, duplicate record, or Control-D, up to you. Now you have this new person. You can change anything you want here. You can say this is a PA. Let you change it, right? I can put my rate now here to, hopefully you're paying the PA well, $10. So there we go. So you can change it. Just remember, when you make the changes, it will copy forward things like splitting too. So make sure you make your adjustments there. But yeah, that's how you build in other people that are not in this hot cost report. Otherwise, yeah, you could go into the actual report. Now, one of the things I haven't explained to you too that can be very, very handy is what's called FileMaker Pro. The program itself is built on FileMaker Pro. If you're going to be doing hot costs to this much detail, you might want to use the FileMaker Pro method. It is more expensive, there's no doubt. What happens with FileMaker Pro is you have to get a FileMaker Pro. We recommend 11, and we have found, by the way, we found a source for it. There's a source, and they're pretty inexpensive licenses. FileMaker Pro seems to work best on Windows. If you are working with Mac or you have a Mac in the mix, then you'll have to go, if you're on the latest Sierra operating system, you'll have to go to 15. 15 is a little bit slower, but it depends. If you have a fast computer, it's usually fine. In fact, it works fine if you're on Mac Sierra, in fact, we found, as long as you have a fairly new computer. And you probably do because it's the latest operating system. But yeah, we recommend FileMaker 11. If you can't get that, 15 is okay as well. It is slower, but FileMaker 11 is better. Again, if you need FileMaker 11 and your studio isn't supplying it, email us. I can give you a source, and it's very inexpensive actually now. They have apparently a bunch of licenses that are very inexpensive. But yes, what you do is you buy FileMaker Pro, and you buy a Showbiz Crew Cards and or SAG Cards license that you can actually then get them linked together. And we'll do that for you. I can give you the details. It's a little too complex to go over here. But essentially what we do is one person becomes the host, and we can link other people as long as you buy a Crew Cards license for each of those computers, we can link them up together. The host just gets turned on and can be used there. There's other options too. We have people that have like maybe 10 or so people in a production office, and they want to be able to share centrally. That's called FileMaker Server. That can be done as well. It requires a dedicated server. Again, if you need that functionality, let me know, and we can walk you through the details of what you need to get. But what happens is you can actually have, and this is what this one studio does, they actually have a data entry person, the payroll person, come in early, and they enter the time cards daily like I showed you in the beginning, right? They just enter the times, make sure they get the middle penalties in there, and then they can wait for somebody to click the button and do the hot cost generation. Usually the payroll person comes in, doubles checks, and then they generate the hot cost. The lead accountant goes in, makes the manipulation of the numbers, and does the reporting. The way you need to do that properly, it can be done without FileMaker Pro. These things, like I showed you, import hot costs and export hot costs, right? You can export it. Somebody, the assistant could go generate it, send you the data, and you can import it in. Again, it doesn't affect time cards in any way. So you can do that. It's a little more work, but then as long as you have your separate license, you don't have to use the FileMaker Pro method. The FileMaker Pro method, admittedly, is more expensive, but if you need it, it's worth every penny. And don't forget, if you are a payroll customer of Media Services, you're going to get everything except the FileMaker Pro. You have to supply their licenses that. But again, the link that I'm going to give you for FileMaker 11 is very inexpensive. I think it's like, is it $99 or $199 each license? It's not bad at all. So if you need that functionality, let me know. But yes, what happens literally, again, is they'll be entering it, and it enters it onto the host computer. The workstation computer is going to access through hot costs and all kinds of stuff like that. It's really very handy. All right, again, I'll go into detail. Anybody who needs any information about that, let me know, and I'll help you with it. All right, so another question, for feature films or if you're not episodic, can we swap out the episode? Yes, you can put in something else. In the beginning, I didn't explain it too much. You might probably want to do it in location, but you could, I think we can even let you do, if you click here, you can say, if you click on these little things up here, go to forms, you can actually change the episode to something else. You can't change the location, but that's okay. A lot of locations not showing up in a lot of reporting. You could type in location there if you wanted to, do it there. And that makes it more convenient. You can do, I've seen some features do like company. You could use that as well and leave the rest. But again, you can change these, and again, I go this in the introductory class. You can change these to whatever you want. However, as it says here, if you're managing to serve a payroll customer, please contact myself or my team, and we can make sure it's matching what you're using for our system, and most likely because you're using Media Web, we want to make sure it matches up, okay? But yes, you can change that here to whatever you want. If you wanted to type this as location or something else, change it to whatever you want, and yes, it will carry through properly when you're going through and using the splitter here, okay? Let's see. Let's see, SAG. Yes, somebody you mentioned about SAG. I'm glad you did because I didn't get to that. There is no automatic pace, but there is some functionality in the program. So let me switch over to SAG here. So in SAG, you're going to want to make sure you find the week ending that you want to report, same functionality as that. So if you go into a particular person on the day, right, I'm going to go into, I'll go over here, I'll go right to this person here. And I want to make sure that at the very, very bottom, you'll see there's an option for hot costing, which is right here. Okay, you have the stage, location, other, okay. What happens here is it's different. It's under, you go up on top, you go to Monday, sorry, no, my mistake. You go to reports. You go to reports, view labor estimate reports. So again, it's reports, go to Monday. Now, by the way, what I did is, this is if you want to enter a Exhibit G, same kind of functionality as if you wanted to enter a daily. That's up to you. You can enter Exhibit G here. It will carry forward to the time card as well. But if you do want to do hot costing, go to the reports, go to the labor estimates for the day, and now you'll see there's something important here. Notice how that there is a variance, and there's something called budgeted type. I'm going to put stage in here, but see how it didn't change? It's because I forgot something. I need to go back to that person's time card, and I need to go to the very bottom. I need to put, oh, I put it in location. Oops. Put it in stage. I'm just dragging and dropping it in. Now, if I go back to that person's time card, or actually the reporting of that particular group of time cards is more accurate, go back to reports, go back to Monday, and should have changed. Oh, because I didn't check. Here we go. See, this one is correct. See that one? That one's in there. Now, if I do that one, there we go. See, now it's corrected now. It's because it's in the time card. Now, it will carry forward when you duplicate the time cards, just like the crew cards does. So once you enter it down there, it'll be available on every time card forward. Now, this gives you the totals. What you have to do, though, is you take the totals here. We tried to find a way, and it doesn't work because it's technically a separate program. Even when you're networking, it doesn't carry over properly. So take your totals, although you can copy things. You can highlight a field, and you can copy it. But nevertheless, a lot of times people actually find it's better just to take the totals, go over to the hot cost itself, which is a separate program here in this case, and go into the actual reporter and go to that particular report and paste it in. Again, that's for the cumulative report that I'm talking about. If you want to use that functionality, go to, and then go to reporter. And then, yes, you can go right to your SAG and just type it in. Or you can individually copy and paste it in too. It's up to you. A lot of times I find people that they write down the labor total or copy it and paste it in, because you can do that too. But that's how you get that number in there correctly. It comes from that particular page on the SAG. So just look at it here, and you can see gross, budgeted, total. So yes, you can do that as well. Again, you can even create a report for this if you like to, and just print it up, and maybe then use this as a separate report with putting those numbers in. Some people actually, what they like to do is they keep a separate SAG and a separate IATSE, Teamster, DGA, i.e. crew report. Again, this is only in particular if you wanted to cut and paste it into that reporter. But yeah, that functionality works really nicely too, if you need that. All right, other questions. Let's see. Cost for SAG. Let's see. Would you re-show how you set the budgeted? Absolutely, no problem. All right, so what you do with that is that's two spots. In the individual person's time card, not the SAG, of course, although you saw where SAG is, right? SAG, it's the same functionality, by the way. It's on the very, very bottom of everybody's time card right here. So put in whatever you want in here, stage location, other, you can go ahead and put in 700, I think this was this case where this person was, and then use that function. In crew cards, it's the same kind of thing. It's a slightly different spot, but again, let's go back to the actual worksheet, and that's at the bottom of their time card right in here for costing only. Now, do you have to do it here? No. Again, this is usually for the payroll person. If you give them the numbers, they'll put it in there for you. You can also do it here, and this is where, again, doing networking is very handy. Go to reports, go to budgeting, and then you can do it here, because this essentially, whatever I put in here, now every one of those time cards has, and it duplicates every week. So you don't have to do it every time. You just have to do it once. But yeah, if I was networking, I could go in and do this while the person is still working on their hot costs, because I'm doing the time cards daily entry, because all I'm doing is affecting that particular time card on the very, very bottom. Again, it's just basically that little slice right here going into that report. So again, there's two places doing it: a bottom of every time card, or if you know, more convenient, if you're doing network especially, you can go into the reports and just do it right there under budgeting. Again, this is a very handy way of just doing it very fast too. All right. All right, well, it looks like I've exhausted all the questions for the day, and that's good because, oh, one more. All right, we'll do one more, and then I'll let you go. See, those budgeted PR amounts don't auto-load when the budget is loaded into the system. No, not automatically. No, you have to fill them out. But once you do fill it out, it will carry forward, and it will duplicate every week. So yes, these numbers are not automatically in there, correct. You have to fill them out. But here's the nice thing. When you enter it on the bottom of everybody's time card, it will carry forward week to week. It is one of the things that duplicates when you're duplicating a time card. So yes, if it's not duplicating forward, it's because it's blank at the bottom here. So don't forget, fill this out here, but you can change it too if you want to. It's up to you. I think the best place to change it is under the reports. But that's why we give you 3 different types, because as a general rule, you don't want to keep changing them. You want to have a 14 budgeted, 16 budgeted, or other. Again, if you don't need those, you don't. And again, if you don't want MPVs, don't fill them out. But yes, it will carry forward as long as you fill it out here on the time card here, or you fill it out in the report section and fill it out. Every week will duplicate from that point forward. And again, when you generate a hot cost, like I did much earlier, it will carry into the hot cost reporting. Again, you don't have to do that. You can manually fill it out, but I think it's better when you do it here because it's easier and makes it faster. Okay, cool. A couple of thank yous. You're very welcome. I'm happy to do this. So, okay, bunch of thank yous. Good. All right, awesome. So, well, you're very welcome. Everybody's welcome for all this. We do the advanced every couple of months. There is currently one up there that you can watch. You can compare them as well. I mean, it's done by my colleague Otter. We'll probably put this up later today so you can review it and watch it again. But again, one of the things that's really cool about what we can do for you is it's part of what you get when you buy a license from Showbiz Timecards, or if you bring your payroll with us, and we're happy to do it as well that way, we give you the free support. We can help you. I have, just like you're viewing my screen right now, I can connect with a program that allows me to connect to you. So if you have any questions, say, Raj, you know, I didn't quite understand that one thing you explained. Can you go over it with me again? I'd be happy to do that. And that's about anything from the introductory class and the advanced class that we offer. We're happy to show you the functionality. In fact, I often recommend before you actually do the full hot costing method that we go through it once with you, along with you. Usually a lead accountant's going to do this, so the first accountant's going to do this. Let us help you do the very first one so you get a good experience, you know what you're doing, you have a, you click all the right buttons, and then from that point forward, we find you do much better on your subsequent hot costing. So feel free to take advantage of that ability for us to connect to you, help you out. And again, you're paying for that. That's part of the reason my licenses of Showbiz are a little more expensive. You know, instead of charging you separately, which some companies do, you get free support one-on-one with an individual that can help you with that. So please feel free to take advantage of that and let me help you and let my team help you with all the functionality of Showbiz Timecards. All right? Well, again, thank you for your time. Appreciate all your time. And if you have any questions, you know where to contact us. All right? Thank you very much.